Welcome to Founders Tales, David. Do you want to give everybody an introduction to yourself and your company, Brickgraph?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me, Chris. So my name is David Bender, and I'm the founder of Brickgraph. Brickgraph is building data solutions for commercial real estate teams. We're really focused on helping teams integrate their data, get a cohesive view of their business, and take advantage of the incredible opportunities that AI provides. We do that with some interesting technology specifically related to knowledge graphs and geospatial analytics, combining the two and integrating with AI. We're really trying to make working with data a lot less frustrating and hopefully value add for teams working in real estate and built environment.
Yeah, brilliant. And what was the problem that first sparked the idea for the business?
So when I'm originally Canadian, grew up in Hamilton outside of Toronto, and then moved to London in 2019. And I moved to London to work for a real estate investment firm. Pretty traditional firm. It was a family office that was going through an acquisition, and I was hired to basically modernize the data architecture and the systems and processes for this company. And Brickgraph really came out of my personal frustrations working with data and real estate, whether it be the systems that we were using or the fact that most people were using spreadsheets and processes were all over the place, and there just really wasn't a lot of integration, whether in terms of data or processes inside of a company that otherwise was doing really amazing things. And so that, I should say frustration, but challenge, I guess, grew into building some internal solutions for that company. And then when the time came for me to kind of think about what was next, I just couldn't get the idea of building the tool that I wish existed when I had started in 2019. And that was Brickgraph, which is a geospatial knowledge graph that's easy to build. You don't need to be a coder to build it. It can integrate with other systems, and we can do sophisticated reporting, analytics, and AI. And yeah, so I guess the short story is that it came out of my own personal experience working with data and working in the real estate industry, and just seeing up close all the amazing things that are going on, but all the ways that data is kind of creating friction for companies when it really shouldn't.
Yeah, so it's a frustration/passion project.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I've always been passionate about my frustrations. People who know me will know that I get most passionate when I talk about the things that are bothering me, particularly when it comes to things not working. So it was years of trying to piece together all of these different processes and data, and just finally getting frustrated enough that I decided to dive into it. Maybe a bit of a classic story of like, you don't really know how hard it's going to be, and that's the only way you'll ever get started. Because I think if somebody had told me how difficult it would be, I probably wouldn't have done it. And we can chat a little bit about my inclinations, but I wouldn't describe myself as a classical entrepreneur. I mean, I wasn't one of those people necessarily, but for me, it was a specific problem and a particular industry and people that I worked with that kind of both inspired me to kind of improve it, and also exposed me to enough challenges and problems that I realized that there might be an opportunity in that. And we're still here, and now in a second country, and still plugging along. So I guess it wasn't a total mistake.
Yeah,
misjudgment on my part.
And you mentioned if somebody had told you how hard it was going to be, that you might not have gone down the same route. So reflect on what's been the biggest challenge that you've kind of faced in terms of trying to build the business.
Yeah, there's been lots of challenges. I would say the biggest one is that I've basically done it on my own up till now. I mean, I shouldn't say I've done it on my own, because I've had a lot of help and a lot of guidance and advice. But formally, it was a solo venture, and has been a solo venture. There's been a few periods where I had folks who were interested in being a co-founder, formally joined as a co-founder, but for various reasons, it didn't work out. I think that was probably has been the biggest challenge for me. It was something that, I had to get going on my own, because I was, as I mentioned, I'm kind of the one who's really personally experienced this problem, that who was highly motivated to work on it. But I don't think I did a good enough job, or frankly put enough attention on trying to bring others in earlier, and really letting the company kind of be shaped by other folks, because I think one, it slowed us down a little bit, and two, just really personally, like being a founder, I think, is a difficult process, regardless of what your support system is, regardless of how many co-founders you have. Being a solo founder, I think it just means you don't really always have that outlet. And I've learned that the emotional side of it has been as big as the technical or the business side of it. And having somebody there with you, I'm very lucky that I have a wonderful partner in my life. But I'm always in search of more folks to work with me, and kind of be part of Brickgraph. So that's definitely been the hardest thing. There's lots of other things too that I guess are difficult, in the sense that you have to really focus on getting better at them, and you have to identify your weaknesses and turn them into strengths. For me, that's been sales and marketing. It's not something that comes natively or easily to me. So really having to kind of condition myself to lean into my weaknesses, weirdly. Whereas I think early on, when I was starting Brickgraph, I was able to lean into my strengths, which are around data science and process improvement and the technical side of things, where I might have over-indexed a little bit on that because it was so comfortable, and getting better at something you're already good at is a lot easier, I think, emotionally, than getting, good at something that you're bad at. So between being a solo founder and kind of, having to learn on the fly, I would say those are probably the biggest challenges.
Yeah, makes total sense. Human nature.
Yeah, exactly.
Human nature. You've been working on the project for a while now. So how does the product look now versus, your first MVP?
Yeah, so I first pitched the idea of Brickgraph actually or the first concept, I should say, of Brickgraph at my old company nearly 4 years ago. Conceptually, it was cool. It was like, okay, kind of get it, interesting, but never really got off the ground until about 18 months ago, 2 years ago, when I first kind of started working on it properly. Funnily enough, the product now is miles better than, I would say, the first MVP version of the product, but it's eerily similar to what I conceived of 4 years ago. So it's funny how it's kind of gone gotten worse, and then now it's kind of coming back to what I conceived of, what I had in my head. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'm still unsure. Maybe it should look a lot different than it did. I don't know. But yeah, so I would say it's changed a lot in terms of the usability. I mean, I spend a lot of time in the app itself, not just writing code, but actually in the app itself. And I try to talk to customers and users as much as possible, but I would say that it's a lot different in the sense of how it works, but conceptually it's very, very close to what I had originally conceived. So I would say it's changed a lot in the details, but the big picture is still, I still wanted to build a geospatial knowledge graph that anybody could use. And I think, broadly speaking, we're doing that. We can always get better at it. We're doing that. But then if I look at the code itself, or the way that we do things inside the app, I mean, it's really night and day. So yeah, a ton of evolution, a lot of hard work, a lot of help, frankly. A lot of people have helped and support along the way, who still do. But it is remarkable how things change, but kind of stay the same at the same time.
Yeah. And how did you convince your first pay-in customer to believe in the product, believe in your vision, etc.?
Yeah. So when I first left my old firm, I started doing some consulting, including for my old company. I left on very good terms. They're a wonderful company. And I did some consulting, and I was introduced to some folks, including one one investment firm in the UK, which turned out to be our first paying customer, and did some consulting with them. It actually was not a technical solution. They were just looking for some help in developing a data strategy, really trying to think through, how should they proceed, not even necessarily what specific tool or platform they should use. And so I worked with them for a few months and got to know them, got to know sort of where they were at, what made sense for them, built them a data strategy, modeled after my thinking that it contributed to Brickgraph, but not actually the product itself. And then after that consulting project was completed, the conversation then shifted to like, okay, well, like, how do we make this real? David, can you help us go find a solution, or what should we do? And I maybe foolishly kind of pitched them the idea of saying, well, I've been working on building my own data platform that very much follows the logic that I just presented to you. If you're interested to be the first customer, I would love for you to be that first customer and be a big part of developing the product. And they said yes. They've been a customer for, I guess, almost 18 months now of the actual software itself. And so the product is very much sort of inspired by that experience and their feedback, their involvement. And thankfully they have some really interesting, unique kind of components to their business. But by and large, like, they're a real estate investment firm that cares about a lot of the same things that other customers would care about. And so they were pretty representative, and they have helped develop the product a great deal. And so, yeah, it really came out of that sort of initial consulting work and the opportunity that I saw as a strong relationship that was already there. So.
Brilliant. Fantastic. And as you said, you started Brickgraph in London. You've now relocated to Boston. So, what advantages or difficulties would you say come with building a startup in Boston versus other locations such as where you came from, or San Francisco, New York, etc.?
Yeah, I can't speak so much to the experience of building elsewhere in the US. As I mentioned, I grew up in Canada, spent a lot of time, went to university and worked in Toronto, and then lived in London. So my experience is sort of a little bit on the Toronto tech scene, which is very active and obviously is picked up a lot lately because of AI, especially AI being kind of a lot of the formative work was done at the University of Toronto. And then in London, which has an incredible startup scene. I would say that the difference in Boston between the two of those, and in particular, I guess, in terms of London, is there is I guess, this isn't to disparage necessarily the UK, but like there is an ambition component in the US and in Boston that is a lot more tangible than I noticed in London. There's a lot of ecosystem in London. So there's a lot of, government programs, there's a lot of grant programs, there's a lot of incubators and startups and things like that, but it's more feels like just an industry around startups, whereas in Boston it's a little bit more action oriented. That's my sense. So when I meet founders, or when I meet even people in VC or potential customers, is a lot more of let's get into it, like let's immediately start. Let's try to build a huge business. They talk in different sets of numbers. It's like orders of magnitude higher numbers. In the UK, they talk about, you chat with people and they're like, oh, well, we're looking to get $100,000 grant. In the US, like, we're looking to raise $10 million. And it's so that orders of magnitude higher in terms of like what goes into a company and what could potentially come out of a company. And the nice thing about Boston that I've noticed, and again, take this with a grain of salt because I have a ton of exposure to other parts of the US in this regard, but in Boston, there does seem to be a nice balance between the ambition and I don't want to say quality of life, it's not quite quality of life, but there's sort of a recognition that, if you're going to get into startups and you're going to try to build these businesses, you really need to be aware that, like, in this environment, people frankly need you to build a huge business. And if you're not going to aim for that, that's okay, but just be cognizant of that if you are going to kind of go all in. And so, whereas that hasn't always been kind of the attitude that I've heard when it comes to startups, whether it be Toronto or London, doing a startup might be just, I'm just a person with a small business, or it could be someone who's trying to build a unicorn, but they don't really talk in that way. Whereas here, there's a lot more honesty about, hey, if you're going to do a tech startup, you need to be aiming to be a unicorn, or you need to be aiming to build a solid, profitable business. But those two things are very different. And whereas I noticed in London, there wasn't always such a clear distinction, and there was a little bit more hesitancy to be quite so open about your desire to build a huge business. I mean, Chris, you're from UK. I don't know if you that resonates at all with you, but there is a little bit of the I don't know exactly what the right word is here, but Americans are they just seem to be a lot more open about the desire to build massive businesses and to chase enormous goals, for better or for worse. And in Boston, they seem to both understand that, but also seem sensitive to the fact that, like, you have to be honest about that reality. And if you're not going to go at it, you really shouldn't necessarily. And that's the decision that Brickgraph is still making. I mean, we have not raised any capital, fully bootstrapped. I'm very lucky, but also very particular about that, because I want to make sure that if we do go down that route, that we are being honest about the fact that we not only want to build a big business, but have a solid plan of how to do that, and that we are ready to take on all of the incumbent challenges that come with having that level of ambition. Not to say that I'm not ambitious and Brickgraph isn't ambitious, but you really got to think through the technical components of what that actually looks like when you go to try to scale in that way. And that's, to me, that's been sort of the main difference when I think about startups in Boston. The other side of it is that the resources here are just incredible. I mean, there seems to be an event every day, regardless of season. There's a lot of corporate support. There's a lot of venture capital firms. There's a lot of startups. Obviously, in Boston, you have the incredible university ecosystem here. So there's just a lot going on for a place that isn't actually that big. I mean, Boston's a much smaller city than London or even Toronto, but yet it feels like there's more activity here. I don't know entirely the reason for that necessarily. I mean, I have some suspicions. Other people can speak to that better than I could. But thus far, to be honest, I've been here since I moved here permanently at the end of January. And I moved here for largely personal reasons. My wife is from the Boston area. But I got very lucky that she's from Boston, because I can't really think of a better city for me and for Brickgraph.
Yeah, Boston's fantastic. Cool. So moving on to some reflections and advice then. If you had to pick one thing that you know now that you wish you knew before you started the business, what would stand out?
There's probably a long list of things, but I think I would probably circle back to what I said at the beginning, which is really understand your community and who you have around you to support you in what you're doing. Now, obviously, that can mean a co-founder. I don't think everybody needs a co-founder. I mean, it would be pretty hypocritical for me to say you have to go out and get a co-founder before you can start a business. I'm a solo founder. But one thing that I maybe didn't appreciate was how important just community actually is. And so what I would tell people, and what I would tell myself, if I could go back a couple of years, is to say, invest just as much in your community as you do in your product, especially at the early stages. I have been very lucky, and I think I've kind of learned this lesson more recently and tried to be more intentional about it. But it's never too early to start thinking about who's around you and who's supporting you, and sometimes who's not supporting you, and really kind of being very intentional about that component of your life, because it will take over your life. There's really no way around it. And so having if you have a partner, you really have to understand, like, they're part of that just as much as you are. If you're going to have a co-founder, you need to really, really make sure that it's a good fit, and be very honest and very forthright about what you're capable of putting in, what they're capable of putting in, what your goals are. And then it's just a continuous theme, right? When now I'm starting to look at bringing folks into the business as employees or partners and customers, and even that part of it actually does eventually kind of come down to community and collaboration. So it deserves just as much attention as the technology or the market or the product or anything else. So that would be the one piece of advice that I would give people, is to remember that you cannot do this alone, and your community will be the reason why you succeed or fail.
Yeah, great advice. And then finally, you might have touched on a couple of things just now, but in terms of riding the peaks and troughs that naturally come with building your own business, particularly as a solopreneur, how do you personally stay sane, motivated through those?
Poorly? No. As I've mentioned a few times, I have an exceptional partner who's extremely supportive and understanding. So that's definitely one. Two, and this is partly moving to Boston, I think, it is recognizing that, like, it can't become my whole life. Work can't be the only thing that I care about. And it's actually detrimental to Brickgraph if the only thing I ever think about is Brickgraph. There's so much value in doing things that are totally perpendicular to what you're working on. It'll inspire your product, it'll inspire conversations, it'll make you think better about problems and opportunities, customers, and all those things. And then the part that I struggle with, but I know is really important, is like the physical health component of it. Running a business, whether it's a solopreneur or as a startup or a VC-backed startup, it's like you will only go as far as your body will take you, because your mind won't be there if your body is failing you. And so I do try to, not always so great about this, but I try to be conscious about staying in shape and going for walks. And I'm a rock climber, in wintertime snowboarding, so recognizing that it's not actually in anybody's interest for you to be consumed by what you're doing. Maintaining healthy relationships, a healthy body, a healthy mind, those things will actually serve you in very concrete ways, even if that pressure is creeping in, because it will. So yeah, that's my advice. Do I always follow it perfectly? No. And you do have to appreciate that, like anything that requires extraordinary focus and time, there's going to be days that are extreme. There's going to be days that are really bad. You also can't get too upset at yourself if there's too much variability at the same time, right? You're trying to kind of go from highly variable to somewhat leveled out, but that's just, you're not always in control of that, and learn to enjoy the roller coaster sometimes, even if it scares you and you're not entirely sure that it was engineered well. But on the other side of it, if you can do all those things to keep yourself healthy, it'll just, I ascribe to the principle that, like, job one of a company is to stay alive. And job one of a founder is to be able to show up for work. So whatever that means, figure out a way to show up for work. And if it means that you're going to have to loosen the reins on certain things, or you're going to have to change targets, or you're going to have to modify expectations, then you have to do them, because job one is you got to show up. And if you're not showing up for your company, for the people in the company, then nothing else will really matter. You can put all the sales targets you want, but if you don't show up for work, if you're not able to do that or willing to do that, then it all falls apart. So remembering kind of the foundational stuff that's important, and keeping that in focus will make everything a little bit easier.
Perfect. Well, what great note to finish on. So thank you for your time today, David. I've really enjoyed speaking with you, and best of luck to yourself, best of luck to Brickgraph moving forward. I hope you guys still around in 10 years' time and have
You
gone
and me
from strength to
both.
strength.
I sincerely hope this is the last job I ever have. Probably won't be, but for me, that's kind of been my aspiration, particularly over the last year, is I've realized that I really do enjoy this, and we're going from strength to strength. There's still loads of challenges, just like everyone else. But yeah, it's been fun so far. As challenging and crazy as I think it's been over the last few years, I can't really imagine doing anything else. And it's been a good foundation if I do end up doing something else. But thank you, Chris. Really great to meet and really great to chat. And thank you for having me on. I hope this is of some value to someone. But it's always nice to chat, and I appreciate the invitation.
Well, I'm sure it will be of use for people. So thanks very much. Appreciate your time.